Hello and welcome to PQ Prime. A very good afternoon to all the viewers. The selling pressure does continue for a second consecutive session, though from the day's lowest levels of 19,296, we've seen a mild recovery that has come into the tune of almost around 90 to 100 points from the day's low. But what would this actually mean for the markets from here on is going to be interesting to watch out for. The advanced decline ratio is pretty much in favor of the bears. So let's head across to Rahul Sharma to discuss more in terms of what one should be expecting. Rahul, clearly, the FIs have turned net short in terms of where index futures are concerned. The PCR OI has also cooled off. And if you see in terms of markets, we are seeing that selling pressure that's coming in, but in the last hour of trade, we are seeing some bit of short covering that's happening over the last two trading sessions. The VIX has also, yesterday's session we were at 11.28, which was an uptick of almost 10%. Today as well, there is some bit of volatility in the market. What's the sense that you're picking up from these levels?
Yeah, very good afternoon. So clearly, markets were looking for a reason to correct, and finally, the downgrade of the US by the Fitch was one reason why we finally broke down. Now, clearly, this is the undertone of the market is still bullish, although this only seems like a correction as of now, which means that 19,300 and 19,000 are your two levels to keep an eye on for any sort of a reversal. Today we've tested 19,300 and we've seen a pretty nice bounce back from that level, meaning there is a good possibility that if global markets improve, global markets stabilize from here, we could very well get back on track, which was up. So I think at this point in time, the best thing to do is to be stock specific. Probably a day or two will give more clarity as to how whether the intermediate bottom has been formed or not. But to make it simple, I think 19,300, 19,000 should be your levels to be adding onto the long side. And we still feel that the structural nature of the market is still up, which means eventually we should be heading towards the 20,000 mark and above.
Right. So that's with regards to my Nifty 50. Now, if you talk about Bank Nifty as well, we are well below those 45,000 levels already. 44,550 is what we've broken in intraday trade right now as well. How important is it to see that uptick in terms of Bank Nifty, and where are you seeing the support coming in?
Yeah, so 44,500 is a very crucial support for the Bank Nifty, primarily because it was the top or the ceiling that was formed in the month of May, post which we saw a bit of correction, and then finally the breakout happened last month. Now, my sense is 44,500, if we do manage to sustain this, we've broken that intraday on the closing basis. We are sustaining it as of today. I think one more session over here, and if we don't break down, there is a good chance Bank Nifty bounces back towards the 46,000 mark. On one side, you have the private banks which have seen correction in spite of good results. Some of the banks have not moved. On the other side, you have resilient PSU banks which have relatively fared well. So I think it is more of a situation where we have to wait and watch and see whether demand supply is changing in the favor of the bulls, and eventually we are seeing some sort of a bounce back coming in from here. But that said, the risk reward is very favorable for longs at 44,500. I would rather wait for a day, probably if it doesn't break, have a stop loss placed at say 44,250 odd, and go long for a bounce back of at least 1,000 points on the banking index.
Okay. Moving on, let's look at a few stocks, because clearly the bears are keeping the pressure lid on. That sideways movement is what is on the cards as well. Now, clearly the options data is showing that the bears have been dominant with maximum call writing happening at 19,500 strike. And the demand at 19,400 is also seen as of providing support to the index overall. If we are looking at individual counters as we speak, few of the names which are really standing out in today's session is Lupin, Zydus Lives, Lotus Laboratories, Glenmark, Aurobindo. All of these pharma names are seeing a bullish setup in today's session. Good demand coming in there. What are charts indicating, and what should the strategy be?
Yeah, so Pharma index has been in the pink of health since last few months now. and we feel that a bit of sideways movement should happen. So the focus should ideally be on stocks which correct, so maybe buy on dip, or alternatively the stocks which have not caught up to this rally. So one stock that comes to my mind is Granules India. This stock hasn't really performed the way the pharma index has gone up. Something like an Aurobindo Pharma, something like a Sun Pharma has done well. So my sense is a catch-up rally should see us the stock heading towards the 360, 375 mark. At around 320 odd, the risk reward is pretty favorable. 300 is quite a support for the stock, so one can have a stop loss place below that. And my sense is, in terms of the sectoral outlook, stock specific action should prevail. Although the pharma index may take a bit of a sideways consolidation where, it just spends some time and does some time correction.
Right. Rahul, how are you seeing a Godrej Properties, Vedanta, as well as a Interglobe Aviation? Because these three names are seeing a short build up in trade today.
Yeah, so Godrej Properties has seen quite a sell-off from 1800 odd levels. There is clearly, a pullback that is seen. But the overall setup is that of a bullish nature, and the 50-day exponential moving average is around the 1550 mark. So we've tested that, we've touched that in intraday. My sense is if this level breaks, there could be a follow-up sell-off. So the best thing to do is if 1550 breaks, probably have a second round of selling that can come in Godrej Properties, which should take us to 1450 odd on the downside, which is another 100 points. So, this is one level to watch, which is more of a make or break zone. And as far as the sector is concerned, like something like a DLF, for example, hasn't really broken down in a big way. So I would take this short with a pinch of salt, and only if that level is broken will I look to go short in a new.
Right. Moving on, let's look at few of the other names in trade today where there is some bit of movement. Pyramid Enterprises and the Crompton Greaves. Short covering seen in both these names, Rahul. What should the strategy be and what's your view?
Yeah, so as far as short covering candidates are concerned, primarily it has been a negative day, and on a day like this, we've seen some bit of action. Especially, for example, there was an attempt for a very smart bounce back in PL towards the first half of the session, but it seems like it has fizzled out. On the contrary, I think something in the IT stack, like something like LTTS, has also seen short covering. That looks like an ideal candidate. Today, we've seen short covering happening in Ambuja Cement, which has actually formed a new, short-term high. This stock had been under pressure since a long time now. Finally, seeing the stock closing above the 470 mark. I think these are the names which were batted down and which you are seeing some sort of a reselection where we could see good gains happening in the coming few days. So I think IT is one sector clearly where we are positive, especially from the mid-cap IT space. LDPS looks pretty good, and one can look to trend on the long side for an upside target of around 4400.
Right. Rahul, apart from the names that we've discussed, anything else that comes to your radar that one should be watchful about?
Yeah, so one stock that I like particularly, or rather sector that I like particularly, is sugar. Now, the sector leader, which is Balrampur Chini, has improved a lot technically. It has been under the consolidation since April now, continuously hitting lower highs. And finally, the falling trend line has been broken out. Finally, we are seeing an attempt to close above the 410 mark. And my sense is if this level does get broken out, we should see the stock heading towards something like a 450 on the upside, which is like a 10% upside. The it's still the first session that it is trying to attempt. We are seeing some bit of short covering happening around 1.1%. But looking at the way the technical setup is, the risk reward is pretty favorable for a breakout. So maybe have a stop loss at 390, go long 450 should be the immediate target. Another stock that I like on the charts is Grasim. Now, Grasim is at a very sweet situation. 21 months of consolidation has ended. We saw the July closing above the 1800 mark, and now we feel that we are eventually heading towards the 2000 territory. So I think for the month of August, Grasim could be an outperformer from the cement space. Cement stocks have started doing well. I would go along with the stop loss placed at 1770. And I think there is a good chance that we head towards the psychological mark of 2000 for Grasim in the month of August.
Right. Let's look at few of the other names that are in focus today. Titan. Now that stock is seeing pressure post earnings. What should the strategy be?
Yeah, so Titan has seen a bit of a selling pressure today. The volumes have been quite significant. But the good thing about markets nowadays is because of algos, because of social media, these negatives get factored in very quickly. So I think post today's session, we should see the stock get back to its normal. It has been under pressure after it formed the high of 3210 in the first week of July, and post that it has been continuously seeking for supports. So talking of supports, there is a big support coming in at 2775. So we're still around 125 points away from that. So maybe around that level, one can look to add longs, or rather, in case today's low does get broken, there is a shorting opportunity to be had where one can expect a 100 rupees slide on the downside. So, Titan is one where we would rather remain short as of now, but around 2775 would rather be a buyer, as that is a very strong support, as it was that it had, which had formed in the month of October.
Right. Moving from there on, let's look at a few of the other names. You have Aisha Motors, which is seeing a good run in today's session as well. How are you looking at Aisha Motors? And this is ahead of earnings.
Yeah, so Aisha has been finding support around the 200-day moving average. It did so in on the 24th of July. Yesterday also we saw the 200-day moving average get broken intraday, but again the mine was seen. Today again we did an attempt. So multiple times the stock has reversed. The stock has bounced back from its 200-day moving average. As we speak, the 200-day moving average is at 3397. 3397 sorry 3297, and I think the best thing is in terms of the headroom, there is a gap on the daily charts which gets filled around the 3600 mark. So until 3600, the view remains positive on Aisha Motor. Have a stop loss based on the closing basis. So 3297 closing basis stop loss you can have for the long position, and the probability is regardless of the result, at least technically the stock looks good for a rally from here.
Right, so that's with regards to Aisha Motors. Thank you, Rahul, so much for getting us all the views on the names that we've discussed. But it's an interesting day of trade because last two trading sessions, after the kind of slump that we've seen, we have seen some bit of short covering that has happened in the last half an hour to 45 minutes of trade, and that's exactly the phenomena that we've been witnessing right now as we speak as well. If you see in terms of Nifty 50, Adani Enterprises, Adani Ports, Aisha Motors, Divi's Laboratories, and Infosys. These are the top gainers. Whereas on the losing end, you have Titan, which is reacting to numbers. ICICI Bank and Bajaj Finserv are trading under pressure. ONGC is down, as well as Ultratech is trading under pressure. It's an interesting trend that we're witnessing in the cement space after Ambuja Cement has made an acquisition of Sanghi, Industries, a stake in Sanghi, a majority stake in Sanghi Industries, wherein all your other large cap cement players, they have been trading under pressure, whereas all your smaller names have seen a good run up in trade today. So that's an interesting story to watch out for on BQ Prime as well. But apart from that, if you see in terms of Bank Nifty, clearly we are below the 44,515 mark, and it's banks, IT, and financial services. These are the ones which have been the biggest drags, whereas Pharma has continued to be the top gainer in terms of the sector. The Bank Nifty as well has underperformed the benchmark in the season trade. But overall, an interesting day of trade where from here on we are headed is going to be interesting to watch out for after the upgrade that we've seen on India from a Morgan Stanley as well, whether other brokerage houses will follow suit or not, or in terms of India is going to be interesting to watch out for. And will that journey lead Nifty 50 to 20,000? That's the crucial one to look out for from here on. That's all that we have on the session. Thanks for watching, and lots more lined up on the other side. Please stay tuned to BQ Prime and have a great evening.